Hi, I'm Jonathan Spragg from Meet the Boss TV. For this week's Solution Provider Focus, I've come to Manchester in England to the offices of B2B International, a specialist business-to-business market research consultancy. But how can market research be really effective at helping businesses build a brand, or enter a new market, or even develop new products? Well, to answer all these questions, I've come to meet with Nick Hague, the founder of B2B International. B2B International has managed over 1,000 custom market research projects throughout the world and across many industry sectors. Nick and his global team pride themselves on gathering information and turning it into clear and actionable findings, thus providing insights that bring value to your business. But it's the timely insights that provide competitive advantage. So how does Nick keep up with the trends and make sure that the information that he's giving is really up to date?
To look to the future, you can also look back in history and have a look internally at accounting trends, see how that can then measure up if there's anything that's pointing in the direction of future growth. Equally, speaking to employees, finding out they're at the coalface often, speaking to the end customer, speaking to the various different channels, so finding out what if they're picking up any particular trends. But more importantly, it's going externally and speaking to customers, to distributors, people out there that are on the ground using your product or service to find out what their needs are and how their future needs may change, so that you're ready to adapt your product, your service, your offering, so that it more fully meets them in the future. There's quite a lot of information under our noses as well, so published reports out there, and even though it's still in its infancy in business-to-business marketing, the use of social media, so looking at blogs and LinkedIn forums to have a look at megatrends that maybe points in the direction of where the future's going. So using these various different methods, we can triangulate and put together insight that can hopefully guide a client in the strategy they take for the future.
You work within 40 countries or across 40 countries or more. How do you, I suppose, look at your clients' specific needs and identify those? Is there a process for you to do that?
It's very important both in designing a project but also in analysing what comes back from a project, that you understand the cultural differences in different countries and regions around the world. For example, when designing a study, will a Japanese respondent maybe take an unsolicited call? Or if you carried out an e-survey, would that put at risk half the population in Spain that maybe aren't online and can't answer that particular problem? So it's important that a company understands those. But I think the most important thing is when it becomes to the actual insight of what it all means, and there's nothing more typical than when you look at customer satisfaction data. And when companies try and compare geographies by geographies, it's not always possible. I mean, for example, US respondents always rate very highly on a customer satisfaction scale, whereas the likes of the UK and Germany and Scandinavians, then they are always a bit more conservative in what they deliver in customer satisfaction. So you need to go to an agency that understands these things, therefore that can deliver that insight and therefore feed through into actionable results.
It must be difficult, I guess, once you're talking with the client to prove the return on investment. How do you justify the investment that the client might make to B2B International?
People look at ROI on their fixed capital and large expenditure, but on the day-to-day runnings, people don't typically look at ROI, so on paper clips or coffee machines or stationery. And even on the likes of insurance, people don't look at ROI on insurance, even though large sums of money are spent on that. Tens of thousands of pounds are spent on a typical research project, so it's only right that that should be justified. But is not market research and market intelligence like insurance, in that it's giving you that future insight and future gazing to make business decisions without the risk? I mean, in terms of ROI, it's difficult because a new product that's launched, actually, you won't actually be able to see the ROI for a few years until it's actually on the market itself. So it's a challenge. And I think one of the keys is to use practical solutions for ROI, such as, questions like, do we already hold this information internally, and therefore can we answer this without spending vast amounts of money on research? Or indeed, what are we going to do with this research? How will it be actioned? And what's the decision that we're going to make on the back of this research? If it's tens of millions of a new plant being put down in Kazakhstan, for example, then it's only right that we should spend £40,000 or $60,000 on a piece of research. So just answering these questions, I think, can actually deliver a lot of why you should move forward with a particular project.
I think it's fair to say that market researchers are trained in a scientific way, yet the market is of course driven by emotion. So I asked Nick, how does he ensure that he finds the right balance to get the answers to his clients' problems?
It's important that you use a balance of common sense and not only go out there and carry out the statistical analysis with the robust numbers to feed a quantifiable solution, but also use common sense. So, for example, in qualitative research, in focus groups, you go out there and you ask the question, and it's interesting that the Yorkie bar in the UK came about from a multitude of different focus groups, but actually only one respondent mentioned the fact that chocolate isn't as big and as thick as it used to be when I was a kid. And on the back of that, the Yorkie bar was developed. So, just feeding and tapping into these emotions is very crucial, especially because sometimes, the best laid segmentation plans or customer value propositions look good on paper, but actually don't translate into reality and workable solutions. So using that balance of quantifiable data, but tied in with some qualitative background and insight, can deliver actionable findings.
B2B International made a move last year into defensive research, such as customer satisfaction survey. I asked Nick, how does he measure and maintain his own client satisfaction, and what impact does that have on the strategy of his business?
At the moment, there's a real buzz around a topic called NPS, or Net Promoter Score. This has been put together by Frank Reichheld of ex-Bain consultancy, and what he argued was that he was looking for a metric between likelihood to recommend and financial growth. And it's a very simple question. It's been asked throughout time. How likely are you to recommend this company to a colleague or friend on a scale of 1 to 10? And what he correlated is that he was looking for companies that give a score of 9 or 10. He termed promoters, and these people will come back and spend more. And if someone gives a score of 1 to 6, he argued that they're a detractor. And if that issue isn't sorted out why they are a detractor, then they will leave. And his argument was that what you've got to do is look to get as many promoters as you can. Your NPS score, by the way, is the percentage of people that gave a detractor score 1 to 6 and take that away from your 9 to 10. Now, we asked that question as well in our customer satisfaction, and really that's targeting our future growth, because year on year, clients of ours do come back, but of course we acquire new clients. And from our NPS score, from our customer satisfaction surveys that's sent out, we have an NPS score that hovers around and about for the last year of 90%. So that's not bad when you take into comparison that a B2B average is around 25%. So hopefully, that will continue for the future, and we will continue asking our clients of where we can improve so we can more closely meet their needs in the future.
Do you think there's a danger, though, within the economic climate that we're in, that companies just focus on that defensive research and hold on to what they've got, and actually perhaps lose sight of the market research of where they have to acquire new clients or acquire more customers, and actually get left behind? There must be a fine balance, certainly in, as you say, these economic downturn.
There is a danger of that. I mean, yeah, definitely. And if we're too inward looking, then we don't know what's going on and what the competition are doing. And we've definitely seen a change in what people are looking to commission and types of research that's been commissioned. But there's differences around the world as well. In the US, for example, we're seeing a lot more bullish behaviour. Maybe they've come out of the recession earlier, and therefore they're looking at new product developments or market entry studies, especially moving into China and Asia, more so than we've seen in Europe, where it has been more customer satisfaction and holding on to what you've got. But there is that danger, definitely.
You have a strong globalisation strategy. You're based here in the UK. You have offices in New York, in China, and you also have affiliates in Moscow. How does that global sort of outlook, approach, if you like, help your clients?
Even from our humble beginnings, with just a UK office, we've always had international clients, and we've always been able to carry out international work because the telephone is the tool of business, and we've been able to sweat our assets, and our multilingual team have been able to work round the clock, speaking to and gathering information. I think, though, what we did realise is that customers, clients of ours, do like the service aspect of being able to have the comfort of being able to speak to someone in their time zone, when in their working hours, and also being able to have face-to-face contact. It's still very important in business-to-business markets. So that was the decision why we set up the Beijing office. We've now got a Shanghai office as well, and equally the New York office, because through those legs of the stool that make up the company, we're able to cover the different time zones, and therefore a client's always be able to speak to someone should they have the need.
Nick, I wanted to talk about sort of inspiration, and what business leaders would you say have inspired you?
I think I've always been interested by business leaders and business strategists, and so from Michael Porter to Peter Drucker, but also leaders such as Jack Welch. But I think closer to home, what Richard Branson's done in building his business, and more so, what I find impressive is the fact that the diverse business that he's gone into, from food and drink to planes to trains to media, how he's done that with the same brand and what it stands for and the way it's crossed over but still means the same. It hasn't diluted the brand in any way. I think that's very impressive. And well, it doesn't stop there. I think is it Virgin Galactic that he's looking to get to the moon. So all this with his ambitions for adventure, I think it just shows the enthusiasm he has as a business leader.
How important is a company to have a brand, and how much research can go into helping a company develop its own brand?
Well, branding research is, again, one of the strings to our bow of our offering. And in business-to-business markets, it's very important. I mean, you go to conferences, and when we speak at conferences, you ask us, the audience, to shout out brands, and all they ever talk about is consumer brands, Microsoft, Apple, or Nike. All these brands get shouted out. But actually, business-to-business and industrial brands, they sometimes grow without any focus on them, because in the world of business-to-business, if you think of the chemicals industry or the gases industry, then there's only a few players in that industry that are dealing with a commoditized product. Most business-to-business markets are a commoditized product. And so how can you differentiate one product from another, one brand from another? The way to do it is to build that brand, what it stands for, and what that means in the marketplace, so it can resonate and more closely with the needs, and therefore people pay extra.
So if I wanted to build a brand, I wanted to build the Jonathan Spragg Meet the Boss brand. I mean, would I be looking at more the sort of market assessment? Would I be looking at? I mean, how would you go about? What sort of research would I need to use to go into that?
I mean, there's particular methodologies that we'd use for branding research. So you need to go out there and you need to, first of all, internally have a look at what the brand means within the company, what it means, what it stands for, and where you want to take that brand. But then, equally, you need to go out there and have a look at the competition. But speaking to the market is very important. Just finding out are they aware of the brand? If they are aware of the brand, what does the brand stand for? And does anyone take the high ground in a particular position in that market? So you could maybe take your brand towards there, being innovative or leader, and many examples out there, and in fact examples on our website that you can have a look on branding white papers.
Nick Hague, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more fantastic interviews directly related to your business, be sure to explore Meet the Boss TV.